Hello, good morning guys. This is Sunny Vishkarma. I hope all good. So let's start one video for today. So guys, as of now, you understand about my practical video training number 45. We understand about the contract agreement between buyer and seller and most common point to check in the contract agreement when we are doing the import from Germany to Delhi. So what is the next? Now the nomination and coordination process is started. Now the question comes to whom will contact at which stage in the import shipment. So that is all that depend upon the Incoterms. Most common terms in using in the international trade and import: Exworks, FCA, FOB, CFR and CIF. So these are the most common Incoterms. Basis on that we understand to whom will connect, to whom will nominate, to whom will coordination will start. This is the most important and you need to better understand about the Incoterms. Then you can start your coordination further with the overseas. In the next slide, we'll show you about the scope of seller and buyer under Incoterms, Exworks versus FCA. So this is the most important. Then if your procurement teams procuring Exworks import, then what will you do? What is your scope? Being a logistic officer, what is your next step under the Exworks? And what is the difference if FCA? Then what is the difference? Then FOB and CIF and CFR. Then what is your role? To whom will connect? What is the scope, responsibility, cost? These are all difference and depend only the Incoterms basis. So let's move in my next slide. Will show you difference between Exworks and FCA with scope of seller and buyer. Let's move. So guys, in the front, scope of seller and buyer under Incoterms, Exworks and FCA basis. If you are importing any goods and your contract teams, your procurement teams prepare the contracts, so definitely they should aware about the Incoterms and accordingly they make the contract with the overseas party. That is the most important things and you need to better understand. This is also scope of work under Exworks and FCA. This is also important interview questions everyone will ask if any company you're going. So this is most important, you need to understand better. So this is the difference. I show you serial number, content, Incoterms Exworks and Incoterms FCA free carrier. What is the difference guys? This is the common contents and just a practical content, not a in this language you don't know. In the Googles anywhere you can search, but this type of information doesn't available. It means most common contents and most practically explanation. This is the most important thing you need to better understand. If someone has experience, then doesn't about anything, but if you don't have any experience, then this is the most important thing you need to better understand about the Exworks and FCA. So guys, let's move. First, content, seller scope. Just understand, once your contract done Exworks or FCA basis under the import, your procurement team. So first you see in the contract that is Exworks Germany. So what is your next step? Seller, what is the seller responsibility? Overseas seller responsibility is manufacture goods and makes the goods available at their factory. Second, seller prepares bag and shipping marks and paste it on the boxes as per requirement of the buyer. Like me, MSc ABC Delhi. Seller prepare all documents like a commercial invoice, packing list and other documents as per the requested by the buyer. Seller support to buyer for export clearance at origin. It means Germany, because you are importing the goods from the Germany. So in this case, seller will support to buyer. Let us move. The same seller scope. Once we contact and see FCA free carrier. So the all terms as a seller scope, the 4 points I mentioned, the same as per Exworks. So this is common things you need to understand. That is why I mentioned for you very practical level. So please understand these things. And the buyer scope, buyer basis on Incoterms, What is your scope? This is the buyer scope. Buyer scope, buyer will nominate to following party. Buyer ABC Delhi. So if I contract Xworks, then what is our responsibility? If I directly coordinating with the shipping line, then I will nominate as a buyer because I am the importer. Second is freight forwarder. If I am working with a freight forwarder for container booking. CHC also I need to appoint in origin and destination as well. I will contact at origin for custom origin at custom clearance at origin, Germany. Fourth is transporter for placement truck at seller factory for pickup cargo also. So this is the buyer scope if we make the contract as a Xworks basis under the import, and similarly the things is going on export as well. So this is the import because now the import operation has been started. That is why I am telling you all the points, critical points and technical points as well. So this is most important, you need to take care of it. And what is this buyer scope? Similar as Xworks in the FCA basis only, but for transport in this case FCA named place, not a factory. It can be buyer nominated warehouse, it can be others. So in this case seller responsibility to deliver the cargo at the name place. That is why transport arranged by the and pay by the buyer only. Third one is a responsibility. In the Xworks, seller responsibility and when goods loaded at their factory, after that buyer is responsible. It means only seller scope, he prepared the goods, packed and loaded. Once buyer places a vehicle at seller factory, then seller just load the cargo. In FCA seller responsibility and when goods delivered at the named place as informed by the buyer. After that buyer is responsible. Risk responsibility cost, that is most important factor in Incoterms, and it is depend on the your trade in the export, in the import as well. So we are in import, talking about import. So risk, buyer is responsible for bear risk when goods pick up from the seller factory. Simple, buyer is responsible for bear risk when goods pick up from the seller factory. Once goods is ready, buyer has pick up the goods, and now the buyer is responsibility. Xworks seller responsibility, and buyer is responsible for bear good risk when goods received from named place, not a factory. It can be factory or it can be other warehouse. It can be named place as requested by the buyer. And once buyer receive the goods from the named place, then buyer is fully responsible. Fifth point is the cost. Cost in the Xworks, simply as an Xworks factory, you means seller bear all cost for packing, quality, insurance. It means within company insurance. If company fired, anything happens in the company and the goods had been damaged and losses, so they can cover up the loss via insurance. So that is the important. He needs insurance till the factory only, and loaded on track. After that buyer will bear all cost. Seller bear all cost in the case of FCA. Seller bear all cost, packing, quality, loaded, transportation till delivery at named place. Same simple, FCA is a named place defined, and then buyer will bear all cost. Control, buyer has most control on cargo as comparison to seller. That is simple because in Xworks seller just responsibility and once the goods are loaded at their factory on track. Simple. And the FCA basis same as Xworks. Control simply control, mostly control with the buyer only. Mode of transport, this terms can be used any mode of transport, means by air or by sea, and in FCA the same, no problem. So this is the most important terms for the import while you are doing import or while doing your export. This is the most important, and this is the process of seller and buyer scope. So very important, you need to understand. So let us move in my next slide. Scope of seller and buyer under Incoterms FOB versus CIF and CFR. Number one, content the same, content will be same and the scope will be changed. So let us move one by one. Seller scope under the FOB, and we'll see CFR and C&F, cost and freight, cost, insurance and freight. So what is the scope of seller under the FOB? So let us go by one. Seller manufacture goods and make the goods available at their factory. The simple. Seller prepare bags and shipping masks and paste it on the boxes. Second steps. Third step, seller prepare all document like commercial invoice, packing list and other document as requested by the buyer. Seller prepare all export document and send to the custom for clearance of goods. Seller, in this case, seller nominate to transporter also for transport goods from factory to till port of loading, origin Germany. Seller nominate to CHA, custom house agent for custom clearance goods at origin. And in this case, seller support to buyer nominated forwarder, because forwarder, that is a booking, container booking. So FOB, the case, in this case, seller support to buyer nominated freight forwarder for timely update. That is not required, but yes, timely update for export clearance hand over to shipping line till cargo loaded on board at origin Germany. And the buyer scope, and the same in the CFR and C&F. What is the seller scope? Almost on the 5 points is seller as same as FOB in CFR and C&F. In the last, in this case, seller will delivery material till unloading port, Mundra port. Seller is completely responsible in delivery. In the buyer scope, second content is buyer scope. Buyer in FOB, buyer will nominate following parties. Number 1, shipping line if willing to directly work. Freight forwarder for direct container booking. This is the buyer scope. Incoterm CFR and CFS, seller will nominate to following party, not buyer. In this case, seller is fully responsible to nominate shipping lines if willing to directly work, and freight forwarder for container booking. In the third, responsibility, seller responsibility and responsibility word, it belongs seller responsibility and when goods loaded on vessel, origin Hamburg port. After that, buyer is responsible. Seller responsibility and when goods delivered at unloading point, Mundra port. After that, buyer is responsible. It means goods moving from Germany till Mundra port under the CFR and the CIF. That is the responsibility of seller when goods delivered at unloading point. The buyer is responsible. So guys, next slide, this is the some continue process under the FOB and CFR and CIF, because this Incoterms is mainly used for anyone can ask questions, process, scopes, responsibility, risk, everything. So I made the slide for you. Just take a screenshot, keep it in record, and you can discuss to anyone. If any doubt, you can ask me anytime, any questions, by WhatsApp, by Gmail, via my email ID, YouTube ID, in comments as well. You can give the comments, so I will take a note of it and then I will discuss on it. So let us move some continue process, continue steps and continue contents with the same seller and buyer scope under the Incoterms FOB and CFR and C&F. So let us go. In this slide have 5 contents also there and the same Incoterms FOB and Incoterms CFR and C&F. So content number 1, risk. Buyer is risk means buyer is responsible for bear risk when goods loaded on vessel. And the CFR and C&F same as FOB, once cargo loaded on vessel. It means this is a typically and technically things where the responsibility, where the risk has been transferred to the buyer. So you can understand, the seller just deliver the cargo till the loaded on port and was origin port, and the responsibility transferred to the buyer. That is why I mentioned buyer responsible for bear risk when goods loaded on the vessel. The same as FOB, once cargo loaded on vessel. The same for CFR, same for SIF. Cost. Seller bear all cost, packaging, quality of goods loaded on truck, custom clearance and transportation. After that, buyer will bear all the cost. Seller bear all cost, packaging, quality of goods loaded on truck, custom transportation and CFR and C&F. The difference is ocean freight also. So ocean freight will also bear by the seller. After that, buyer will bear all the cost. And the third is control. In the FOB, buyer has most control on cargo as comparison to seller, and CFR and C&F, buyer has less control on cargo as compared to seller, because it is totally depend upon the seller. When they do the booking, when the cargo is sell, they just inform, but buyer has no control. Fourth is mode of transport. These terms can be used only sea transport, not suitable terms by air. If someone can ask the question, FOB and CFR and C&F can be used by the air, so you can simply know this terms is not suitable by the air. This is only by the sea transport, and the process is set by the ICC Chamber of Commerce. That is the main thing. And the same is mode of transport, same as FOB, CFR and C&F same. This is only the transport, sea transport. And the most and final fifth is the insurance. Seller required to take insurance of cargo from factory to till loading port, origin Hamburg. After that, buyer is responsible for insurance cargo. In the CFR and C&F, just things is typical. We just see same as FOB, seller need to take insurance till FOB because he knows risk transfer to the buyer. So that is why seller doesn't require to take insurance of cargo once cargo loaded on vessel origin Hamburg. After that, buyer is responsible of insurance cargo under the CFR. And CIF, I highlighted CIF Incoterm, seller is completely responsible to take the insurance from factory till unloading port Mundra. So this is the difference, this is the scope and responsibility in everything. Once you have a contract from the procurement team, so you can check all the contents and you can check all the scopes, what is mentioned in the contract agreement. Accordingly, basis on terms, you can start your working and start your operation and start your coordination further. This is the most important thing. So in the next video, I will let you know about all the things, documentation process in import documents, accordingly all Incoterms and the process wise. So let us meet in my next video. And next slide, this is common slide, why practical training is most important. So guys, thanks to all for watching this video and share with maximum your friends and colleagues. Why should join this channel? Only practical and will support you day-to-day activity in your job and business. And guys, your one like and subscribe will provide you next level knowledge. Knowledge, as you know, is the most important than money and free of cost only. So please just support to me, share with maximum to maximum people who is needed BCom, MBA, BBA, whatever they want learning about import exports. Please share with the maximum people. This channel will grow and expand in the pan India and global level. So thank you so much. In the most content, most interesting video will coming in the days. So thank you guys, bye, take care, and most importantly, please subscribe and like on my YouTube channel. Thank you for the day, bye, take care.